Hey, greetings YouTube. It's Performance Reviews, where I give you the review from the technician's point of view. And today we're going to do a quick retrospective on the Dyson DC-17. You will hear the DC-17 talked about quite lovingly from a lot of people. And there's some good reasons for that. There's also a lot of people who really didn't like this vacuum and had a lot of problems. They made several revisions of this machine. There's 3 different cyclone revisions. They removed an idler pulley at some point from the brush roller, and they changed the gearing amount on the brush roller. So if you're looking at this video for a technical tutorial on how to fix this, go check out my actual technical tutorial. Right away, let's just talk about the issues. So the brush roller, as mentioned, tends to eat itself up in the casing, causing this clear case drum to have to be replaced. And at the very least, the brush roller ends get eaten and need to be replaced. However, there are some aftermarket options that are a little bit better than the Dyson ones. The genuine Dyson parts are just not very good for this. You can still get them. You can still get belts, and I'll put a link below to that stuff. I guess the first thing, let's talk about the cyclone. Why I have it all pretty and cleaned up. So, the cyclone assembly right here, this gasket has a tendency to lift up. This gasket has a tendency to move and lift up. And what happens when this gasket moves and lifts up, the cyclones stop working, and rather than the dust coming in on the shroud, it starts to come in here and it clogs the cyclones. Now, this was Dyson's venture into multi-level cyclones, meaning that there's 2 cyclones down here that then feed up into this upper cyclone pack, which means those get full real fast. So you always want to make sure this gasket is secure, and there's a couple ways you can deal with this. 1, you can just keep an eye on it. 2, you can put a little bit of silicone on that. 3, if you could find the original part, Dyson actually made a thicker gasket that snapped on here, and that was supposed to solve it. They would also later take away the 2 cyclones in here and go to 1 cyclone. And this is a departure from DC-14, where you could just open it up and wash the cyclone. This actually has to be disassembled, and it's glued together with a silicone band right there. So disassembling this is not easy, and it's very messy. So I think that's like the #1 thing that plagued Dyson with this. I think the other thing is that Dyson would later switch to a different style of filter with this. You would see Dyson go away from their 2-part filter to their single filter. I guess they did with some earlier models, but this really, the location of this under the bin assembly was a departure. And this is made out of like this rubber stuff. It's always been very sticky and tacky and weird. And it's like a thick cotton. Very much reminds me of a K&N air filter, just without the oil. And then we can see the motor here. And this just goes in there like that. Now the other thing is, where is the HEPA filter? Well, it sits in here on the side, but there's a Phillips screw that you have to get to it from below. And let's just say no customers ever found that. And I think that was done on purpose. They wanted this machine to burn itself up. The other thing that this has is this is a 2-motor design. This is the Dyson that makes the most sense out of every single Dyson. You have a motor for suction, you have a motor for the brush, and it's not a ball. So that means it's not going to have that swivel neck. So it's just a very simple up and down cleaner head. Speaking of the cleaner head, the other thing that was solved with this cleaner head is they added a couple of springs. On previous generation, the cleaner head was kept level with a little dinky hose. But when we turn this bad boy over, there's a set of springs here. So this is spring loaded, and it's no longer relying on the secondary hose. It's a big design improvement. There is supposed to be a squeegee here. Mine, of course, has gone missing, and they don't make parts for this anymore, other than these aftermarket brush rollers. So this has been fully cleaned, and I've kind of tuned this up a little bit to make this video. So big thank you to our Patreon supporters who help give us money to keep the lights on around here and do projects like this. Dyson has gone back and forth several times at this point in time when this machine was made, whether the handle should be up front, in the back, which shape it should be. And you'll see particularly the 14s and the 15s, there's a lot of different handle things. They kind of only had the one handle for this, and they settled that. It still has the little, like, I don't know what you call this, little cover right there. And the tools simply depart. Now this uses just an 1.25" fitting, which means you can take any other tool from just about any vacuum. Here's a Oric, and it will just fit on there. So this was, again, not full proprietary as they have gone today. Now the cord on this was the standard 30-foot Dyson cord. Standard length, nothing real special about this. This is before they went to the matching dark gray cord. I guess the other thing is this has the weird handle wand assembly. And this one automatically locks, and it's pretty simple. You can then put the tools, show you what the tools came with, will actually fit in here, but there's some holes here, so if you don't really manhandle it in there, you can get in halfway and it will whistle. Very annoying, very strange. They also curve the crevice tool to fit the machine, which makes it not so practical sometimes when you're trying to get into some places. Oh, also, I have the very rare accessory still with my machine. That is the upholstery tool. It's just a basic upholstery tool, but almost all of these fell off, so it's kind of cool to have. Right on back here, the upholstery tool just kind of goes into its home right there. I guess the other thing we should mention in terms of problems is, this folding cord hook. As you can imagine, a cord hook that folds, it's made out of, well, whatever Dyson Chinesium this is made out of. Well, it's not even Chinesium, it's Malaysian. Let's just invent words. It's made in Malaysia. Now up here we have controls. Again, this is the most un-Dyson-like machine because it's really simple and it makes sense. You have your on-off button. And then we have a brush roller switch right here to go between hard floor and carpet. And kind of the goal of this machine was to put Dyson on the map in terms of power and kind of fix the issues that they had with the 07, the 14, which are much more powerful than the current model Dysons. But they were really trying to get airflow, agitation, and really get a hold of the American market. And they were successful doing that with this model, and the DC-25 both accomplished that. Now these things were made from about 2007 till, I want to say 2008, 2009-ish. I could be wrong, but they only made for a few years, but they made a ton of them. I have never actually seen a yellow-topped one, but I have seen blue and red. There are Target and Costco exclusives. So one of the things that was a huge departure on this machine is the ability to self-maintain. There's no clutch mechanism that requires a special tool on this machine. The customer could actually take a coin, pull the base plate off, and get to the guts of the machine. Now, there is no pulley in my version that I have, but some of them would have a metal pulley here. And then that would have to be removed when you got a new brush roller and or belt, because the belt and the brush roller were slightly shorter. The belt was shorter, I should say, and the brush roller had less teeth on it. So that was a source of contention. The other thing is these end caps on here. Show you what that looks like. These would just eat themselves up left and right. And this one isn't too bad, but most of these plastic housings have all just gone. Yeah, there's no play in this one. This one's really solid. The other thing is, you saw there's stuff in the brush roller chamber. That was an issue with this. For whatever reason, the seals were never very good, and stuff just always got in there. And whether it was genuine or not, the brush roller, that would just chew itself to death. Now, I guess the other thing I should address up close are these springs. These springs solved so many issues having this spring loaded instead of just relying on a hose to keep the cleaner head level, unlike previous designs. So again, step in the right direction for Dyson. Now, of course, we want to know how much working vacuum this thing gets. Note it has clean filters in it, and it's been freshly serviced, so this should be close to what it was new. 15 inches of working vacuum is close to what a Dyson hand vac gets. And it gets about 50 inches or so sealed. Now, we can't test the full sealed suction on this machine because it has this relief valve back here that opens up, but it seems to cut off around 50. Man, that explains a lot of what we've seen with this Dyson and its inability to really thoroughly deep clean carpets despite having great agitation. We've switched to the studio microphone so you can hear the real sound of the machines as if you were standing next to them. I'm going to show you the DC-14, what this did to the carpet versus the DC-17 in terms of agitation. And if you're unfamiliar with the 14, the 33, the 7, they all use this real dinky brush roller. All right, now the 17. So you can see that agitation difference made a big deal with the American consumer market. Now there's still no height adjustment on this machine, which meant this didn't adjust for a lot of pile of carpet still, and it didn't work with a lot of carpet. It became very hard to push. And this is the machine where the bristles were considered by the carpet manufacturers a little too sharp, and because again, comboed with no height adjustment, this thing just burrows down in the carpet and actually destroys carpet fibers. So I'm not actually going to run this upstairs in my house. I'm only going to run it downstairs in the vacuum room for a brief while. So it's not that it was so powerful, it was just designed poorly in that aspect. But also it met their design goals in they wanted something that was going to thoroughly beat the carpet, and it sure does that. Alright, we're going to just do our standard pickup test, but it's not on our standard carpet, so understand this is more just for fun. But I have breakfast cereal, flour, cat litter, and some fresh pet hair. Let's see how the DC-17 does. Oh, just makes such a sound. Alright. So even though it had a strong agitator, it still leaves a little bit of hair behind. And that's right where the belt is on this machine. So there's no actual agitation there in the middle. Actually a little bit of cat litter in the carpet. Flour seems like it's gone and everything else looks good. So that's pretty darn good for a Dyson. Just for fun, let's see how it does on the hard floor. Now the pet hair keeps blowing away because I have a swamp cooler and it's constantly blowing air down here. We're going to turn the brush roller off, of course. I don't know if you can see the sand on my hand and the flour. But I did pick up the fine flour. It also had a tendency, let's do this here, to drag that pet hair because it just doesn't have enough oomph to really go in there, right where this is. Again, this is why Dyson's had to make so many different models. Not everything was great. Well, folks, if you've had a DC-17, I'd love to hear how it's treated you and what your relationship is. Did you buy it new? Did you buy it used? Is it part of a collection? Or are you nuts and daily driving this thing? Comment below. I'd love to hear. At the end of the day, is the DC-17 as legendary as it's made out to be online? No, I don't think it is. However, it was a step in the right direction for Dyson, which they quickly decided they weren't going to do in the future. And this was kind of the last of the Mohicans for Dyson, making a simple but effective vacuum cleaner. Despite it chewing up carpet, despite that brush roller being overly aggressive, it was a decent idea. Poorly executed, of course, and made in Malaysia, per the usual agreement with Dyson. But I'm happy to have this example, and as these get older, brittle, beat up, there's no actual parts available from Dyson anymore on these. So having this is just kind of a cool little treasure and peek back into when I was turning wrenches, kind of doing peak performance, when I was doing like 15 to 20 machines a day. I'm happy to see this. Again, big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Big thank you to everybody for subscribing and watching this. And we'll see you again in the next retrospective review.